I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I would have rearranged his perfect teeth into a jigsaw puzzle. We were at a dinner I didn't even want, at a restaurant my wife picked, a place where the cheapest glass of wine could pay my car insurance. She called it a serious talk over dinner. In hindsight, I should have known. When a woman says she wants a serious talk, she doesn't mean therapy. She means demolition. I walked in, and there he was, Chase Donovan, the so-called mentor from her office. You know the type, button-down shirt a size too tight, hair gel that could stop traffic, smirk like he'd practiced it in the mirror until it was muscle memory. And my wife, Ashley, sitting next to him, laughing like he'd just reinvented humor. Her hand was dangerously close to his thigh, and not the oops, wrong place kind of close, the this is exactly where I want it kind. Logan, she said sweetly, motioning me to sit across from them. This is Chase. I've told you about him. Oh, I'd heard. Too many times. The brilliant coworker, the inspiration, the guy who just gets her. If he got her anymore, I need to start charging him rent. I sat down, forced a polite smile, but under the table my fists were already clenched. Chase leaned forward, locking eyes with me like we were in some kind of Western standoff. I'll make this simple, he said smoothly. You've got two options, Logan. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. Ashley didn't flinch. She just smiled, like this was a scene from her favorite soap opera, and she already knew how it ended. My ears rang. My jaw locked. I stared right back at him and said, calm as a Sunday sermon, you want your teeth whole, or in pieces? His smirk cracked just slightly. Ashley gasped, Logan, you're embarrassing me. Embarrassing her. That's what she cared about. Not the fact that she was practically holding hands with her colleague, but that I wasn't playing the doormat she expected me to be. And right there, in that overpriced restaurant with candlelight glinting off her diamond ring, I realized something. This wasn't the start of her betrayal. This was the curtain call. She'd been rehearsing this act for months. I didn't lose it. I didn't storm out. I smiled. And in that smile, I decided something she wouldn't realize until much later. She thought she was one step ahead. She wasn't. When we got home that night, she didn't speak to me. Not a word. Just stomped around the house like a queen annoyed that her loyal subject hadn't bowed low enough. I sat on the couch, calm as ever, sipping a glass of water while she slammed drawers in the bedroom like she was auditioning for a Home Depot commercial. Finally, she emerged in her silk robe, arms crossed. You embarrassed me, she snapped. I looked up slowly, met her eyes, and said, no, Ashley. I surprised you. There's a difference. She blinked. That threw her off. She expected rage, begging, maybe even tears. Not composure. Certainly not calm logic. You can't keep acting like this, she said, chin high. Like what? I asked. Like I'm the problem. That almost made me laugh. She'd brought her side piece to dinner, and I was somehow the problem. But I didn't laugh. I just let the silence do the work. Silence unnerves people more than shouting ever could. She shifted, clearly uncomfortable. I think we need space. There it was, the prelude to divorce, sugar-coated. Okay, I said simply. She wasn't expecting that. Her eyes narrowed. Okay, that's it. Yeah, I replied. If you need space, I'll give you plenty. Then I stood up, walked past her, and grabbed a blanket for the couch. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She wanted me to grovel, maybe slam a door, show her she still had control. Instead, I gave her nothing. That night, as she scrolled on her phone with the screen tilted away from me, I opened my laptop and began quietly moving a few things. Not clothes, not boxes, information, bank accounts, passwords, documents she didn't even know existed. Ashley thought she'd blindsided me, but the truth was, the game had just started, and I was already moving the pieces. She had no idea I'd seen this coming months ago. The next morning, Ashley came downstairs dressed a little too nicely for a Saturday brunch with the girls. New heels, fresh curls, that perfume she only wore on anniversaries. Going somewhere special? I asked casually, sipping coffee. She didn't miss a beat. Just brunch. Don't wait up. I nodded. Brunch usually runs until midnight these days. She froze for half a second, then flashed a tight smile. Don't be ridiculous. I let it go. Out loud, anyway. In my head. I was already noting the way she grabbed her phone the moment it buzzed, smiling down at the screen like it held a lottery ticket. When she left, I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. I'd installed a little app on the shared iPad weeks ago. Call it a hunch. Every time she texted him, it synced. And there it was. Chase, can't wait to see you. Last night was close. Ashley, I'll be free by 11. Same hotel. Chase, always. I didn't rage. I didn't throw the coffee mug. I just smiled. Confirmation felt less like heartbreak and more like ammunition. That evening, when she came back smelling like cheap wine and guilt, I was waiting with a glass of her favorite Chardonnay. How was brunch? I asked. She blinked, surprised at the wine. Good. Nice to catch up. I leaned back, sipping my own drink. Glad to hear it. Oh, by the way, Chase called while you were out. Her hand jerked, almost spilling the wine. What? Yeah, I said smoothly. He wanted to make sure you'd left your scarf in his car last night. I told him I'd ask you. Silence. She swallowed hard, searching my face for anger, for evidence. But I kept my expression neutral, calm. Must have been a mistake, she muttered, setting down the glass too quickly. I only smiled. Sure. Mistake. She excused herself 5 minutes later, phone glued to her hand as she disappeared upstairs. I could practically hear her fingers flying, texting Chase some panicked version of he knows. Let her sweat. I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not when the first crack had just appeared. I was going to make sure the whole facade crumbled exactly when I wanted it to. People think revenge is about rage, about blowing up, about screaming until the windows shake. That's amateur hour. Real revenge? It's quiet, calm, patient. I spent the next week treating Ashley exactly the way she'd always claimed she wanted, like nothing was wrong. We had dinner together. I asked about her day. I even laughed at a few of her recycled office stories. She bought it, hook, line, and sinker. The trick was not to act hurt. Hurt makes cheaters feel powerful. Indifferent makes them panic. But behind the curtain, I was busy. First, I got the finances squared away. I rerouted my paycheck into a separate account she didn't know about, one I'd opened months ago under the excuse of a side investment fund. Then I made a quiet call to my old college buddy, Keith, now a divorce attorney with a reputation for making spouses wish they'd never heard the word alimony. Keith chuckled when I explained the situation. So you want to build the case before she even knows there is one? Exactly, I said. By the time she realizes, I want her standing in a minefield she can't get out of. Keith whistled softly. You always were 3 moves ahead, Logan. That was the plan. 3 moves ahead. Meanwhile, Ashley was busy playing house with Chase. She thought she was being clever, sudden work calls in the evenings, gym trips that never broke a sweat, and the occasional girls' night that smelled suspiciously like cologne when she got home. I let her think she was fooling me. On Wednesday, she waltzed into the kitchen wearing that same perfume again. I was chopping onions. She kissed me on the cheek, rare these days, and said, You're cooking? That's sweet. Thought I'd surprise you, I said with a smile. You've seemed tired lately. She froze for just a moment, then forced a laugh. Work's been crazy. I looked her in the eye, smiled softly, and said, I can imagine. You deserve a little fun now and then. Her lips parted, the tiniest flicker of fear in her eyes. I turned back to the cutting board before she could read me. That night, when she went upstairs for a long bath, I pulled out my phone. I'd set up a tracker app weeks ago. It didn't just log where she went. It saved messages. Deleted ones too. I scrolled. There it was. Ashley, he suspects something. I can tell. Chase, then we need to be more careful. Don't let him get in your head. Ashley, I won't. He's too predictable. Predictable. I actually laughed out loud at that one. If only she knew. By Friday, I was ready to make my first move. Subtle, nothing she could pin on me. Just enough to rattle her. She came home from yoga around 9 p.m., hair suspiciously tousled, cheeks flushed. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of bourbon, papers spread in front of me. What's all that? She asked, trying to sound casual. Just bills, I said. Oh, and I found this. I slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a photo, her and Chase leaving a hotel lobby. Nothing explicit, but damning enough. Her face went pale. Where did you get this? Funny thing, I said. Someone mailed it to me. No return address. She stared at me, jaw tight. That's ridiculous. It's just a work event. I leaned back, sipping the bourbon. At the Maplewood Inn? At 10 at night. Her hands shook slightly as she slid the photo back into the envelope. Logan, this isn't what it looks like. I raised an eyebrow. Then tell me what it looks like. She opened her mouth, closed it. then stood abruptly. I don't have to explain myself to you. Of course not, I said, voice calm. You never do. And just like that, she stormed off upstairs, heels clicking like a ticking clock. I waited until I heard the bedroom door slam before dialing Keith. She's rattled, I said. Time for step 2. Step 2 was simple. Let her think she was still in control. The weekend passed in silence. She avoided me, and I didn't chase her. On Sunday, she even made me pancakes, a peace offering, though I knew the real reason. Guilt tastes a lot like syrup. By Monday morning, she was humming in the kitchen like nothing had happened. I played along. Big day at work? I asked, pouring coffee. Yeah, she said. Chase and I are pitching a huge client. Could change everything. I smiled, as if the mention of his name didn't sting. Good luck. You'll do great. Her eyes softened, almost surprised by the support. That was the key. Keep her guessing. That evening, while she was working late, I met with Keith. He handed me a neatly organized folder. Inside, bank statements, call logs, hotel receipts, all linked to her. Where'd you get all this? I asked. He grinned. Let's just say Chase isn't as careful as he thinks. The guy puts dinners with your wife on his corporate card. Rookie move. I closed the folder, satisfaction settling over me like a warm coat. She won't know what hit her. Keith leaned in. Just make sure you're ready. This kind of clean break. It takes nerves of steel. I smirked. Don't worry. She thinks I'm predictable. That night, I got home before Ashley. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that usually felt heavy. But this time, it felt like control. At 10:14, the front door opened. She slipped in, heels in her hand, trying to be silent. She froze when she saw me sitting there in the dark. Late night? I asked. Her eyes darted. Yeah. The client meeting ran long. I just nodded. I'm glad you're working so hard. She blinked, confused. You're not angry? I smiled. Why would I be? I trust you. Her shoulders relaxed, just a little. She kissed my cheek, reluctantly, and headed upstairs. As I watched her disappear, I whispered to myself, checkmate's coming. Because the thing about Ashley? She thought she was playing poker. But I wasn't playing cards. I was building a chessboard, and every move she made was already trapped. Tuesday morning started like any other. Ashley in the mirror, perfecting her hair with the precision of a surgeon, and me sipping coffee like it was my only lifeline. She was humming again. Funny thing about guilt, it either silences people or makes them act like Broadway performers. Ashley, definitely the latter. She turned from the mirror, lip gloss in hand. You're staring, she teased. I smiled faintly, just wondering if Chase will notice the effort you're putting in today. The lip gloss paused midair. She covered quickly with a laugh. Don't be jealous. You know I'm all yours. Oh, I know, I said. Calm. Steady. Not biting. She studied me, maybe wondering if I'd grown stupid overnight. Then she grabbed her bag and headed out, heels clicking like a countdown clock. The moment the door shut, I pulled out my phone. Keith had sent me a message. Got what you asked for. Check your email. I opened the file. Photos. Chase and Ashley at a hotel bar. Chase's hand on her thigh under the table. Her leaning in, lips dangerously close to his ear. Time-stamped, dated, and, best of all, paid for on Chase's corporate card. Evidence. Hard, undeniable, judge-approved evidence. I didn't feel joy, not exactly. More like validation. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that I wasn't the boring, predictable man she whispered about when she thought I wasn't listening. That evening, I waited. Dinner was on the stove, her favorite, chicken piccata. She walked in around 7:45, makeup slightly smudged, hair not quite as perfect as this morning. Smells good, she said, trying casual. Long day? I asked. Yeah. Work. She avoided my eyes. Of course. I slid her a glass of wine. I hoped the client was impressed. She froze for a fraction of a second, then took the glass. They were. We ate in silence. Halfway through, I set my fork down. Ashley, do you ever wonder what would happen if all the cards were on the table? No secrets. No lies. Her fork clinked against the plate. What's that supposed to mean? Just a thought, I said with a shrug. She stared at me, lips parting like she wanted to confess, then snapped her mouth shut. Instead, she muttered, You're being weird. I smiled softly. Maybe. The silence stretched. Then her phone buzzed. She snatched it up so fast you'd think it was a lottery ticket. She glanced at the screen, cheeks flushing, and excused herself to the bathroom. I didn't stop her. I didn't need to. I already knew exactly what that message said. The next day, I put phase 2 into motion. I met Keith in a quiet cafe across town. He slid a folder across the table. You've got everything here: bank statements, call logs, hotel receipts. And the prenup you both signed before marriage? You're solid. I skimmed the papers. Clean. Organized. Ironclad. Once she realizes you're moving, she'll fight, Keith warned. You sure you're ready for the blowback? I leaned back. She's been underestimating me for months. I'm counting on her to keep doing it. Keith smirked. You always were a strategist. That evening, I changed my routine. Instead of waiting in the living room, I disappeared into the garage when Ashley got home. I let her wander through the house, calling my name like a kid playing hide and seek. Finally, I walked in carrying a box of old photo albums. Thought I'd look through some memories. Her eyes narrowed. Why? Just felt like reminding myself who we used to be, I said, placing the box on the coffee table. She stiffened, maybe afraid I'd found something incriminating. Maybe guilty because she knew those photos didn't match the woman she'd become. I flipped one open. Us on our honeymoon, laughing on a beach. Crazy, isn't it? How quickly things change. She crossed her arms. Logan, what are you trying to say? I looked her dead in the eye. That I notice more than you think. Her lips tightened. She grabbed her wine glass, drained it, and stormed upstairs without another word. I let her go, because the trap was almost ready. On Thursday, I upped the ante. She came home late again. This time, I left a piece of paper on the kitchen counter. Just one. The receipt from the Maplewood Inn, Chase Donovan's signature clear as day. I was upstairs, reading, when I heard her footsteps stop. Silence. Then the faint crinkle of the paper as she picked it up. Logan, she called, voice shaky. Yes. What is this? I strolled downstairs, calm as a monk. What's it look like? Her eyes darted. Where did you? Does it matter? I asked. The real question is, why does your colleague sign for a hotel room at 11:47 p.m. the same night you told me you were at yoga? She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried a different tactic. You're snooping. This is toxic, Logan. I chuckled softly. Toxic? That's the word we're going with. Her face flushed red. You're twisting everything. You don't trust me. Should I? I asked, tilting my head. She glared, breathing hard. You're not the man I married. Finally, I smiled. Exactly. She didn't have a comeback for that. She stormed upstairs again, heels pounding like gunshots. I sat back down, poured myself a drink, and whispered, check. The weekend came, and with it, her unraveling. Friday night, she came home late, makeup smeared. I didn't ask. Saturday, she tried to pick a fight about the laundry. I didn't bite. By Sunday, she was pacing the kitchen like a caged animal. Finally, she blurted it out. Do you even care where I've been? I looked up from my book. Of course I care. Then why aren't you saying anything? She snapped. Because I don't need to, I said evenly. Her face twisted. You're pathetic. Just sitting there while She stopped herself too late. I raised an eyebrow. While you what? Her silence was all the confession I needed. I stood, placed my book down carefully, and looked her dead in the eye. Ashley, you've already lost. You just don't know it yet. She blinked, startled by the calm certainty in my voice. For the first time in months, she looked afraid. I smiled. Check. Monday morning, Ashley left the house earlier than usual. Said she had a team meeting. The way she said it, eyes too bright, lips too glossy, I knew she wasn't heading to any conference room. I let her go. I didn't follow her, didn't call, didn't text. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with Keith's folder spread out in front of me, sipping coffee and waiting for the day to turn. It was time. By noon, I was in Keith's office. He leaned back in his leather chair, the city skyline stretching behind him like a silent witness. You've got everything you need, Keith said, tapping the folder. Affair documented. Financial negligence. Hotel records. Hell, she even used your joint credit card for one of their dinners. She practically gift-wrapped this for you. Perfect, I said. Calm. Controlled. Keith studied me. You're not nervous at all. I smiled faintly. Ashley thinks I'm predictable. That's the best cover a man can have. He laughed softly. All right, let's play it your way. That evening, I set the stage. Dinner again, steak, baked potatoes, the works. I opened her favorite wine, let it breathe, even lit a candle. She walked in around 7:30, hair mussed, perfume heavy. Her eyes widened at the table. What's all this? She asked carefully. A nice night, I said, pouring her a glass. We haven't had one in a while. She smiled, relief flooding her face. Maybe she thought I was surrendering, desperate to win her back. We ate, made small talk. She laughed a little too easily, her shoulders slowly relaxing. Halfway through the meal, I leaned back and studied her. You look happy, I said. She tilted her head, smirking. Maybe I am. I smiled. I'm glad. Really, because I think it's time we stop pretending. Her fork froze midair. Pretending what? That this is still a marriage, I said quietly. The color drained from her face. Logan. I slid an envelope across the table. She stared at it like it might explode. Finally, with trembling fingers, she pulled out the contents. Photos of her and Chase, hotel receipts, text message printouts. Her face turned red, then pale, then red again. You've been spying on me? I raised an eyebrow. Spying? Or noticing? You decide. She slammed the papers down. This is an invasion of privacy. I can't believe you'd go this far. I sipped my wine. Funny, I was about to say the same about you. Different context, of course. Her lip curled. You're pathetic, Logan. Sitting here like some smug detective instead of being a real man about it. I set my glass down gently. Ashley, if I were being a real man about it, you and I wouldn't be sitting at a table. We'd be sitting across from a judge. Her mouth opened, then shut. You wouldn't dare. I leaned in slightly. Wouldn't I? The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. She finally shoved the envelope back toward me, eyes flashing with desperation. This doesn't mean anything, she hissed. It's a mistake. A stupid mistake. Multiple times? I asked, tilting my head. That's a lot of mistakes, Ashley. She clenched her jaw. You don't understand. Chase, don't finish that sentence. I cut in sharply. Her eyes widened. For the first time in months, I saw fear. The next morning, I took the final step. She was in the shower, humming like nothing had happened. I slipped into my office, opened the safe, and pulled out the documents Keith had prepared. Divorce papers. Pre-filed, waiting only for a signature. I didn't leave them out. Not yet. Timing was everything. Instead, I sat on the porch with my coffee as she left for work. She leaned down to kiss my cheek, the same lips that had been on Chase hours before. See you tonight, she said. I smiled. Looking forward to it. She walked away, heels clicking down the driveway, completely unaware she was already standing in the ruins of her own little empire. That evening, I decided to turn the screws. I greeted her at the door with a calm smile. How was your day? Busy, she said quickly. Meetings, you know how it is. I nodded. I do. Especially the kind that happened at the Maplewood Inn. Her face snapped toward me, eyes wide. What did you just say? I leaned against the doorway. I said, I hope the hotel had good room service. She froze, panic flickering behind her eyes. Logan. I cut her off with a raised hand. Save it. I don't need a confession. She swallowed hard. So what now? You just what? Throw away 20 years. Over a mistake. I chuckled softly. You keep calling it a mistake. Funny how consistent mistakes are. Tears welled in her eyes. Not from guilt, but from losing control. I can't believe you do this to me. To you? I repeated, eyebrows raised. Ashley, you did this to yourself. She stepped forward, desperate. We can fix this. Please, Logan. We can. I shook my head slowly. You don't understand. I don't want to fix it. Her face crumpled. You don't mean that. I leaned close, voice low, steady. Ashley, I've never meant anything more. She stumbled back like the words were physical. So that's it. I smiled faintly. Not quite. You'll know when it's it. That night, she didn't sleep. I know, because I didn't either. She tossed, turned, checked her phone a dozen times, probably waiting for Chase to text her some heroic rescue plan. But Chase? He wasn't half as invested as she thought. Keith had already pulled the man's records. Ashley was one of 3 women he'd been entertaining. To him, she wasn't a partner. She was a pastime. And soon, she'd learned that the man she'd risked her marriage for wouldn't even answer her call when the fallout began. I lay there in the dark, calm, steady, certain, because the hammer hadn't just dropped. It was still falling. And when it hit, she wouldn't see it coming. The next week, I played my role like a seasoned actor. Calm, collected, not a hint of anger left in me. Ashley was unraveling fast. She tried being extra sweet one day, pancakes, fresh coffee, even a back rub. The next, she was defensive, accusing me of being distant. Meanwhile, I kept meeting with Keith, tightening the legal noose. He dug up more than I expected. Hotel bills, text records, even emails from her work account that made HR violations look like love letters. On Thursday, I made my move. I left a single document on the kitchen counter, a copy of Chase's expense report with Ashley's name highlighted under guest. When she found it, she stormed into the living room, waving the paper. "You're spying on me again." I looked up from my book, calm as a monk. "Not spying, just paying attention." She shook, her voice cracking. "This isn't fair." I closed the book gently. Neither was our marriage, apparently. And with that, the first domino fell. By Friday, the cracks widened. Ashley came home in tears, mascara streaking. She dropped her purse on the floor, hands trembling. He won't answer my calls," she stammered. I raised an eyebrow. "Chase." Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. She collapsed onto the couch. "I don't understand." "He said he promised." I leaned forward, voice calm, steady. "Ashley, men like Chase don't promise. They sample." Her eyes snapped to mine, wide and panicked. "You don't know him." I smiled faintly. "I know enough." She broke then. Really broke. I watched her face crumble, the realization dawning that she'd traded a marriage for a fling that didn't even have the decency to text her back. And I didn't comfort her. I didn't touch her hand or offer reassurance. I just sat back, let her drown in the silence. That was the night I knew she'd already lost everything. She just didn't know how much more there was left to lose. Monday morning, I invited her parents over. She didn't know. They arrived just as she was finishing her makeup, bright and polished like she was still holding the world together. "Mom? Dad?" she said, startled. "What are you?" I stepped into the room, folder in hand. I thought it was time we all sat down. Clear the air. Her face drained of color. "Logan." Her father's voice was sharp. "What's going on here?" I set the folder on the table and slid it toward them. "Photos. Receipts. Texts." Her mother gasped, hand to her mouth. Her father's jaw tightened. Ashley reached out, desperate. "Don't look at that. Please." But it was too late. Her father's eyes narrowed with disgust. "Ashley, is this true?" She crumpled into the chair, face in her hands, sobbing. I leaned back, calm as ever. I thought her family should know why this marriage is ending. Didn't want there to be misunderstandings. Her father glared at her. "You humiliated him. And us." For once, Ashley had no words. I stood, sliding the final paper onto the table. The divorce papers, signed by me. "This is my closure," I said quietly. "The rest is up to her." And I walked out, leaving her sobbing in front of her parents. Weeks later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office when Keith handed me an envelope. "Thought you'd enjoy this." Inside was a letter from Chase. Not to Ashley, to his company. He'd resigned after HR got wind of the affair, courtesy of an anonymous tip. His career? Finished. Ashley. She was living in a small apartment now. Word around town was she'd tried calling Chase a dozen times, but he'd blocked her. Her parents wouldn't take her calls either. As for me, I walked out with the house, the savings, and, thanks to that airtight prenup, none of her mess. But here's the twist she never saw coming. 2 weeks after the divorce finalized, she showed up at my door. Pale, worn down, desperate. "Logan," she whispered. "Please, can we talk?" I looked at her, calm as ever. "Sure. Come in." She stepped inside, hopeful, maybe thinking I'd softened. I handed her a small box. She opened it and froze. Inside were her keys. The house keys. "I had them duplicated," I said softly. "So you could come pick up your things whenever you want. But don't mistake the invitation." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't love me anymore?" I smiled faintly. "Ashley, I stopped loving you the second you thought you were smarter than me." She sobbed. "So that's it. After everything." I opened the door, my voice calm, steady. "Not after everything. Because you haven't seen the best part yet." She blinked. "What do you mean?" Behind her, a car pulled up. Chase stepped out, not alone, but with another woman, laughing, holding her hand. Ashley gasped. He's with." "Yep," I said. "That's what you left me for. And now, you get to watch him walk away, too." Her face broke, the final piece of her little empire crumbling right there on my doorstep. I gave her a small, polite nod. "Goodbye, Ashley." And I shut the door. Calm. Quiet. One step ahead, right to the end. Checkmate.